Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. We are today going to be going over a tier list, another tier list. This is separate from my starter Pokemon tier list, which I haven't even completed the, 3 of them. I still have, the final starters to do. But in this tier list, I'm going to be just kind of placing the mainline Pokemon games where they may fall. So, first of all, let's just go over all of the tiers, I guess. So we'll start from the bottom up. First of all is just never played. There is maybe one game that I've never technically touched in any form. Now, granted, this is going to be a weird situation because it's I've never played Soul Silver, but it's the same game essentially as Heart Gold. So in that kind of case, I'll probably stick them together. But in a case where it's a singular game, like a third version, and I haven't played it, that'll be just deciding on its own. But I've really only have one game that I've never played, so we'll just kind of leave that where it may be. D is just honestly worst game out of in my opinion. First of all, let me preface this, my opinion entirely, so I know, personally, I know that the game that I'm going to put in this D tier, this absolute worst or whatever, maybe I'm being a little dramatic, but the Pokemon game that I'm going to put in this list, I have a feeling is going to be a little bit of a problem for most people, and we'll get to that. We'll see what goes on with that. C is not great, but not bad. It's just kind of it's not the worst, but it's certainly not the best. I would even put it in a middle zone, but it's not the greatest either way. Then B is basically just middle of the road. Not necessarily no feelings, but it's not good or bad. It is what it is. No need to really explain that any further. And honestly, A is great, but not that great, and S is the best in my opinion. Again, I will say this as many times as I need to. My opinion entirely, so don't take this as an attack on your opinions and your own thoughts. My opinion entirely. So yeah, let's just get to it. I'm just gonna go through the generations. I have these lined up. I think I lined them up as best as I could. But let's just see. I think I have these all lined up in general. But we'll see where things go. Okay, like I said, I'm going to kind of match some of these together, because obviously the paired versions are basically the same. And I didn't feel like making a list myself and getting rid of paired versions. So we'll just do this all in one sweep. The original red, blue, and yellow. Honestly, I would put red and blue in the not great but not the worst situation, because the original games were technically not that great. They set off this incredible series that we all love and everything, but ultimately they're not that great of games. They're pretty bare bones. They're riddled with glitches, and there's some severe just issues with them in general, but they are key components for where we are now. So what else can I do with that? I just got to put it somewhere that I feel it matches up right. Now with yellow, that's a different situation. Yellow's a little different. I would probably put yellow in the middle. It is just as bad in some cases as red and blue, but it does have its quirks and its little niceties that I think it's maybe just it fits better in the middle zone. Next up are gold, silver, and crystal, and these are complicated for me because I have a nostalgic bias for silver at the very least, and while I enjoyed the region, Johto, the Pokemon, the characters, and everything there, they have some severe issues, and not even crystal fixes that. So I'm a little hard to put these in any specific spot. I guess the fair placement would be placing them in the C tier along with red and blue, because they are just as bad in that situation. Plus they have the issues with grinding at the end of the game. Once you beat the Elite Four in the base version of gold and silver and crystal, after you try to do the Kanto gyms, it is pretty much the worst thing in the world to grind up to red. So that's kind of a tough situation there. But at the same time, I have my nostalgic, I guess, rose-tinted glasses for that. I have a hard time placing these. This is, like, hard. I guess if I'm going to be fair, and fair and fair and fair, I would probably put these in the C tier. I hate that I'm putting them there. And again, I'm kind of like lumping a bunch of these games together. Honestly, I would maybe put Crystal, because I played Crystal on the Virtual Console 3DS that just happened like over the last whatever, like 3 or 4 years. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I enjoyed like the quality of life, like the minimal quality of life stuff that they added in. So yeah, sure, I'll put it in the C or in the B tier along with Yellow because they're third versions in their own right. They do add in stuff and whatnot, so fine, I will add them in. Now this is gonna be really quick because Ruby, Sapphire, and Fire Red and Leaf Green, and even honestly, Emerald, I would put them in the middle. I would put them in the middle. I don't have any potential. I don't have any specific memories that make me feel like, oh, they are the best of the best, or they're better than just whatever. But at the same time, they're certainly not bad games. I played them all at least a couple of times each, and gotten whatever. And like Fire Red and Leaf Green are basically just red and blue, but with the quality of life adjustments and abilities and all that from Generation 3. So I would put them probably in the middle. They're kind of like, they're the middle generation more or less. Well, technically I guess Gen 4 at this point, now that we're going into Gen 8, is probably in the middle. But they're basically in the middle of the generations anyways. But I would place them all in the middle zone, basically. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out, because I'm placing a large chunk of these games suddenly in the middle. But that's just kind of how my feeling, I'm going with my gut feeling with this, and I don't have any particular feelings one way or the other. They're good games, but they're not like great games, and they're certainly not good enough to make them into my 8th tier. That's all I gotta say about that. So, okay, so this is, I mentioned earlier that I was going to have a very, controversial, I didn't say controversial, but I should have, opinion, and we are now there. Gen 4, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, I probably have mentioned it, I mentioned it, I think maybe in a video that I made way back at the beginning of the year, when I made like a 20-minute, no, it was probably like a 30 or 40-minute video where I just went over all the games that I played, but I have such a love-hate relationship with Gen 4, well, with Diamond and Pearl, and not really Platinum, because I never played Platinum. Speaking of which, I'll just move that to the never played, because while people have said that it has changed things for Diamond and Pearl and made it better, I've never played it myself, so I can't really judge it. I don't think, based on the things that I've read about it, that it changes it enough. But I won't be too biased about it because I've never played it, so I will keep my hands off Platinum. Diamond and Pearl, however, have some major issues, and I don't care for them one bit. Listen, I love the Pokemon. Like Piplup, the Piplup line is one of my favorite lines in the world. I do love the characters. I love Rowan, Dawn, Barry's really great, and Cynthia. And I love the anime, and I generally, I love the region itself, too. I like the layout of the region in general, or at the very least, like, what it's inspired by, Hokkaido in Japan, and I kind of like the overall story. However, it has so many flaws. Like, listen, red, blue, and yellow, and like Generation 1 and 2, they have tons of flaws, but they're playable and they feel fine. You can adjust to them and they're fine. Diamond, I'm replaying Diamond right now, and I'm just now starting to realize again, why am I playing this? I like, you get to a point, so between the mechanics in general, like the gameplay mechanics are just so slow. The engine's awful in terms of like how it just gets through battles. It takes a million years to get out of a battle, and that's if you're running away from a Pokemon. If you have to battle a Pokemon or a trainer, it takes a billion years. It's highly dependent on HMs, and that's like, obviously up until Gen 7? I guess it was Gen 7, and kind of Gen 6, because they kind of scaled back a bit in there. And even Gen 5, honestly. Either way, like, they started scaling back on HMs, but they were still relevant all the way up until Gen 7, when they don't exist at all. However, Gen 4 has, like, a very specific place for this, where it's just, like, every freaking place you go requires HMs of some kind, to the point that, like, Bidoof and Beeberl have this meme about them being HM slaves, and that's not alright. It doesn't work. It's just not great. There are plenty of stories about, like, Japanese kids having a hard time navigating Sinnoh because it's just so complicated with the HMs and having to go back and forth, and that's why they've done a lot of linear games since then. So I've got a whole soapbox about that, but I won't drag along too much. I feel like whenever I go through all of these games, I always get stuck at Gen 4 because I have so many complaints about Gen 4. So I'm going to put these in the D tier, and you can disagree with me. I don't care. It is what it is. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I just don't care for Gen 4. Or I should really, like, say it more so, I don't care for Diamond and Pearl. I love the Pokemon. That's the thing. I love everything about them except for playing them. And that's a hard truth. Moving along to games that I actually do love, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I never really played Soul Silver because I just didn't buy it. I played Heart Gold, but imagining it's basically the same. I played Silver. I played, now, I guess, Crystal. I played the Gen 2 general story games before, so again, lump them together. But I would honestly place the Gen 2 remakes in my A tier list. I think that they are really good. They have a lot of good quality of life. Like, that's the thing. That's the weird thing about Gen 4 games, is that Diamond and Pearl's engine runs so slowly, and they clearly got it better at the very least. It's not perfect, by any stretch of the imagination, but they clearly fixed something when they started making the Heart Gold and Soul Silver games, and it just works. And, like, the only problem that I have with the Gen 2 remakes is that it still has the problem of the original Gen 2 games, of the, like, weird grind after you beat the Elite Four and up to the Red Battle. So that's really the only problem that I personally have with it, because ultimately that's just a structural problem with the, like, game design in general there. So I wish they fixed that, but it is what it is. Everything else about the game is great. I love walking Pokemon. I love the overall style that they went with. And I just like it a lot. I really like Heart Gold and Soul Silver a lot. And I think they deserve to be higher up on my tier list. Now, moving on, we honestly get to probably some of my favorite Pokemon games. And I would, like, that's the thing. A lot of people like to think that after Gen 4, things kind of started getting a little bit weird. And certainly after Gen 5... But some of my favorite Pokemon games are since then, because they really started going down the route of, like Pokemon has always been an RPG in some sort of way. It literally is just an RPG. It's a JRPG. But they didn't really start going really heavy into the story stuff until later on. And Gen 5 kicks that off perfectly. I love Gen 5 as a whole. I'm going to just knock it out of the park right now. Gen 5 as a whole is in my S tier list. So Black and White 2 are just, they're honestly my favorite games out of all of them, between TMs now being able to use, like, all the time, no matter what. They don't disappear. There's a minimal amount of HMs used in these games, and the story is just so good. And while they do back it up a little weirdly in Black and White 2, it's still really, really good, and, like, I just love everything about it. I love the idea that they had a whole region that was just fresh. There were no old Pokemon until the, like, sequels, and you really had to meet these brand new Pokemon, make a team out of Pokemon that you would never have been able to have in your team before. It was just really cool. And I know it's a point of contention for a lot of people because it was weird, but I really, really loved that idea. Plus, sequels, like, straight up sequels, like, we have never had, even though technically Silver and Gold were sequels to Red and Blue, they like really they didn't have a 2 next to their name, but like in this it is a straight up sequel and I love it. I love everything about it. That's really I'll move on. I could gush about it even more, but I'll move on. If like that's the weird thing, whereas like if Gen 4 is the side of me that like I could go on about how much I don't like it, Gen 5 is basically how much I could love it so much. So that's just really great. Moving on, I'm going to say Gen 6. So first of all, X and Y specifically, I would place them, that's a hard one. I would place them in not good, but not the worst. They have many issues. Their graphics are a little questionable. Like, obviously, when it was first being released, everybody got all super excited. And then slowly, we all realized, wait, this doesn't really look all that great. It's just, it's a weird game. It's clearly that, like, they had plans for X and Y, but then it got scrapped, and there was, like, a bunch of, like, weird missing stuff out of it. It's just a weird set of games, and it's their first set of games jumping into the 3D zone, so that's kind of a disappointment. But I certainly had fun playing them when I did play them, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know where else to place them other than not great, but not super bad. I guess I could just leave it at that. Now, the Oras remakes, I know I said that the Ruby and Sapphire originals were basically middle of the road. I'd have no feelings towards them. I actually really liked Oras a lot. I know a lot of people thought it was so super easy, and it was just kind of lame, but I really, really liked it. I liked the just like the Gen 6 quality of life stuff being added into the Gen 3 story and like twisted up. I love the primal stuff. I thought it was just really a lot of fun. So I would honestly put it in great, but not the best. So I'm going to put them both up there. I never played Alpha Sapphire, but again, we're bunching these together because they're basically the same story. But I really like them a lot. I that's really all I got to say about it. I really like them a lot. I thought they were really chill, and even if they weren't like the hardest games in the world, they were still enjoyable. Moving on to the last generation, Generation 7, and Generation 7 is another weird point of contention for a lot of fans. Some people did not like it at all because there was too much talking and too much dialogue and all that, even though, you know, Pokemon's a JRPG, that's basically what they are. But I enjoyed it quite a bit, with even its flaws of like, oh, well, like, certain characters were a little weird, and like, especially when like we got into Ultra Sun and Moon, where like certain characters were changed to match the alternate ending. It felt like they had one game, 2 different endings, but they wanted to make it work somehow. So that's a weird point. And so I wouldn't put them necessarily in my S tier, but I really enjoyed them a lot, and in some certain cases, they had some really good difficulty. I remember there's I forget what the ranch is called in Alola, but it's like a Paniola ranch or something like that, and just outside of there's a woman with a carbink, and I had no intention to use a Mudbray Mudsdale in my Pokemon team. However, I ended up using it, and I loved it because I needed something to beat her Carbink, and I don't know why it was so hard for me to beat that Carbink. Wah! I don't know, but either way, I enjoyed it so much. Ultra Necrozma is super hard. I just, like, not that I, like, I'm looking for, like, super hard games in general with Pokemon, but it was nice to see a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, I enjoyed this enough that I would put it in my A rank, both games. That leaves us with Let's Go. And this is another weird point of contention. A lot of these games have a lot of like, there's varying 2 sides of the story for all of these games in general, but a lot of the more recent games have had like a lot of backlash or a lot of love on either side, and I guess that would be kind of internet fault. Whatever. Either way, I would say that the Let's Go games are kind of the dark horse of the Pokemon series. People didn't think that they would be all that great. They thought it would be like baby's first game. But honestly, they were a lot of fun, especially with like all the like catching mechanic changes. And it was just weird. It was a weird design choice, but ultimately they were a lot of fun, and it was just really cool to play a Pokemon game, a main series Pokemon game that had generally all the mechanics that a normal Pokemon game would have in general, or at least like a Gen 1 game would have. Obviously there are certain things that are missing from them, from that like were in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon, but either way, it was still a main series game that had all the hallmarks of a main series game. But it was a weird thing with the catch mechanics, and it was really kind of refreshing and different, and it really upped my shiny hunting game even more. So I was really kind of happy with that. I got a lot of shinies out of it so far. But I really enjoyed the Let's Go games a lot. They were just really chill, I guess. I guess that's the only way I could say it. So I have a hard time placing these specifically because they're not my favorite games in the world, but they're also not bad in any way either. So they're definitely not going to go any lower than the B tier. But do they deserve to be in the A tier where they're actually really good? I would say maybe this is a hard one, really. You know what? I'm going to put them in my A tier list. Not because they're the most challenging Pokemon games or the most traditional Pokemon games or anything like that, but just simply because I enjoyed them. That I don't have no feelings about them. I actually really, really liked them because they're so different. So you know what? I'm going to put them in my A tier list. Many people might put them somewhere else, but I enjoyed them quite a bit. So yeah, that's all of the games that have come out so far, I think. Unless this tier list left something off, then I didn't even notice. But ultimately, this is my tier list, I think, at the very least. Some games I really don't like, and some games I really, really, really love. So yeah, those are my games in the tier list that I put together, I guess, whatever. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Would you move these around in any way? I'm sure there's a lot of Gen 4 Pokemon fans that probably disagree with my opinions on Diamond and Pearl. Whatever. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Really, the only game that I have never played in any form whatsoever is Platinum, and I have no opinions on that because I never played it. Can't say anything about it. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought down below in the comment section. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. That way you'll get all the notifications when I upload. I will see you guys in another video. So long!